music itself, and most significantly, soundtrack, may be one of the most powerful tools filmmaking has. When silent films were pioneering what we know today, soundtrack guided how the audience should feel about what's being shown on screen. This kept evolving throughout the years, and with the possibility of sound, soundtrack unfortunately started to become less and less important. I'm not saying that films these days simply stopped caring about their soundtrack, because there have been a few exceptions where soundtrack had a more significant role. But I do believe that filmmakers, more remarkably in most current blockbusters, have forgotten about the power of soundtrack. In his book Setting the Score, Music and the Classical Hollywood Film, Catherine Kalanick discusses how the non-diegetic presence of music threatened the invincibility in film, and how composers faced the paradoxical perception that good film music is inaudible. There is an exception though. In 2014, a filmmaker might have just changed the game of what we view as soundtrack in film. Most of all, reminded us about its strapping effect. With Whiplash, Damien Chazelle made soundtrack a character in the story, with features that help to define setting and, most importantly, drive the plot forward. From here on out, soundtrack became what made Damien Chazelle's films unique. Too much in that degree that he decided to make probably the best musical put on film in our time. Since his early projects like Guy and Madeline on a Park Bench or Grand Piano, Damien has always focused on music, which is why making a biopic about Neil Armstrong and the moon landing as his new feature was an odd choice. First Man was overlooked in my opinion. Even though it won an Academy Award for Best Sound Mixing, its soundtrack was unfairly ignored. I believe that First Man uses its soundtrack in such a new and innovative way. Damien Chazelle and composer Justin Hurwitz adapted a different way of using soundtrack, with a magnificent sound which joins complex instruments in such a magnetic way. The sound of First Man is one of solitude and greatness, one that uses a harp and piano, representing the core objective of the film, one that by using the theremin gives sound to the moon. The theremin, created by Soviet inventor Leon Theremin in 1928, consists of two antennas that sense where the performer's hands are. One hand controls the pitch, and the other adjusts the volume. It's almost like a harp with no strings. The result is an eerie, almost ghostly wailing sound that's perfect for evoking the mystery of space. There was something about the theremin that seemed to convey that grief that spanned across the cosmos. It obviously makes you think of space, but it also has those qualities of the human voice, a sort of wailing that feels very mournful to me. The first few tracks on the film, short and sad sounding melodies, represents Neil's solitude. He has a family, but his daughter passing away at a young age makes him feel a sense of emptiness. This is why the theme Karen is one that constantly appears in the film. This is not a new technique used in film at all. Probably one of the best soundtracks in history has used this technique before.
Yeah, who are you to give advice, creepo? Huh? Who are you?
Rocky is a film about a loser, and that is what the soundtrack represents.
Now, I read the script, I know how it ends. He loses. So I had a little fanfare at the beginning, dun da da dun da da dun, okay, and then da da dun da da dun. Very sad because the guy was a loser. So it was a sad song. But in the 10th reel, I said, oh, let's make it peppy and fast and give him some inspiration.
The film, and most of all, the soundtrack, manipulates you in such a magnetic way, making you feel the emotion of Rocky Balboa. This technique is used and perfected in First Man.
Contact light.
Shut down.
There is one song in the soundtrack called Lunar Rhapsody. This song is part of an album called Music Out of the Moon. As seen in the film, Neil Armstrong played a cassette of the music as he hurtled back from the actual moon. The songs of this album are a key inspiration to how Horowitz and Giselle gave a sound to the moon. From the theremin to the Moog synthesizer to the Echoplex machine and the Purite flavor. All of these instruments collaborate to give an eerie, otherworldly sound that associates with 1950s sci-fi. A sound that also at its heart, quoting Giselle, tells a story about grief, about someone who lost a lot of people he loved and what those losses did to him. Which is why the sound of the theremin is almost poetic. It's not until Armstrong walks the lunar surface toward the end of the film when we hear a full-throated theremin section. He stops at the edge of a crater and he stares for a long moment before unveiling his daughter's bracelet in his hand. Then he lets it go, and it drifts off into the dark. Quoting Kalnick again, soundtrack can also create and resonate emotions between the screen and the audience. When we recognize an emotion attributed to the characters or events, we become more invested in them. In a sense, the film feels more immediate, more real.